Some flower stages, but they're out of order, so we're going to start with using merge sort to put them back in the correct order. For merge sort, we're going to start with splitting our original group into two different groups. Here are two groups. Now we're going to keep splitting those up. Subgroups and subgroups over here. And one last split for each one. Now we're going to do the merging step of the process. We have to merge each pair in the correct order. So here's our first subgroup. 8 and 2 are in the wrong order, so when we merge them, we're going to switch them. 3 and 7 are already in the right order, so we can merge. 1 and 6 are in the right order because 1's less than 6, so we can merge. And 4 and 5 are already in the right order because 4 is less than 5, so we merge. Here's the next step in merging. Now we have to merge these two subgroups together. When we merge them, the 2 should go first, 3 should go next, the 7 should go next, and the 8 should be last. When we merge these two groups, we start with the 1, we then go to the 4, we go to the 5, and then we go to the 6. And our final merge is putting everything back together, this time in the correct order. 1 goes first, 2 follows, 3 comes from this group, 4 from this one, 5 from this one, 6 from this one, and then we follow with the 7 and 8, which are already sorted. Our stages are now in order. Out of order again, but this time we're going to use quick sort to put them back together. For quick sort, we need to start by choosing a pivot, and then we can compare numbers relative to that pivot and see if they need to be switched. I'm going to choose 4 as the pivot because it's close to the center of the set. Now that we have 4, we look at the outermost edges and see how they compare relative to our pivot. The 6 is in the wrong place because it should be after the 4, and the 3 should be before the 4, so these two can be switched. Then we can look at the next two outermost elements. The 1 is in the correct spot because it's before the 4, and the 5 is in the correct spot because it's after the 4. Then we go to the 8 and the 7. The 7 is in the correct place because it's after the 4, but the 8 is not because it's before the 4. So let's see if we can look closer, because the 8 needs to move, to see if there's something else that can be switched with. We look at the 4. The 4 and 8 should be switched. Now we look at the 4 and the 2. The 2 needs to go before the 4, so we'll switch those two again. Now our pivot is locked in because everything on this side of it is less than the 4, and everything on this side is greater than the 4. So now we can split into subpiles. Here I'm going to choose 1 as my new pivot because it's in the center of the set. The 2 and 3, the 2 is already after the 1, so it's in the correct place, but the 3 should be after it. So we need to switch it. So then we look more inwards and we see the 1. The 1 should be before the 3, so we switch those two. Now our pivot is locked in and we can make a new tiny group. Let's pick 2 as our pivot. 3 should be after the 2, so the only things that can be switched are these two, and now they're in order. Now we go to our other subgroup. Let's pick 5 as our pivot. The 6 is after the 5, so it's in the correct place, but the 8 should also be after the 5. Let's move inwards. 5 and 8, those two should be switched. Now we look in again at our 7, compare it to the pivot, or our pivot is already locked in, so we can make a new subgroup again. Our new pivot can be the 8. The 6 should be before the 8, but so should the 7. So let's compare again. 6 and 8, the 8 should be afterwards. Let's switch these two. Our pivot is now locked in, so we make a new subgroup. 6 and 7, let's choose 6 as our pivot. This should be after it, so we switch them. Now we can put everything back together. And now we're sorted.